Hi everyone, welcome back to Tuesdays with Tuesday. I'm Tuesday and I write fantasy fiction under the name Mary E. Twomey, and I write under Molly Maple for cozy mysteries and Tuesday Embers for contemporary romance. But we're not here to talk about those other names. We're just here for Mary E. Twomey because we are going to be reading the next chapter of Taste, which is a fantasy fiction story that is based in Filipino folklore. So, cozy on in. If you haven't read the previous 7 chapters, this might not make a whole lot of sense to you, but hopefully it can still give you some peace. And to add to that peace, I have a special visitor with her today. Here we go. With us here. Oh, and look at the baby. This is Cricket, and she also loves to read. She is very excited. She even has her pearl necklace on, just to be fancy. So, we might have some visitors from the animals today, which I am okay with. And I hope you are too. All right, get ready. Chapter 8, Changing Tires and Bonding Over Liars. I didn't get to see the rest of the gorgeous mansion, but the quick exit was worth it to leave without further incident. I all but bolted to Terence the Taurus as soon as I could make a seamless departure. I tossed a polite farewell and another apology to Ezra, which he waved off with a benevolent smile I knew I didn't deserve. I noticed a problem before I started up the car I loved. I was leaning to the right as I sat in the driver's seat. The whole car was leaning, in fact. I got out, praying I'd parked on a slight hill, but hissed out an unladylike swear when I saw I had 2 flat tires. Of course this would happen. Of course I'd given Ollie a 10-minute head start. I leaned closer to examine the damage, expecting a nail or something to clue me in as to how this bucket of nonsense had rained down on me. My breath caught when I saw 2 violent slashes, marring both tires on the right side of my car. I couldn't imagine what I'd driven over that had done that without me noticing. No sooner had I pulled out my phone did Danny and Ezra come trotting out in my direction. "Oh no, what happened?" Ezra asked, eyebrows furrowed. I waved off their concern. "It's all right, I've got a spare." 2 spares? Danny pointed to the second flat. "Just the one. But I'll call roadside. Hopefully they won't take too long. Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. You can go back to your evening. I'll wait in the car." Ezra looked at me as if he thought I might burst into tears at any moment. "You poor thing. Don't bother with a tow, yeah? My car has a spare Danny can replace yours with. Danny?" Danny was already on his way to the 4-car garage that looked big enough to house a family of 5. I lowered my forehead into my hand, exasperated with myself. "Really, it's fine. Seriously, I'm like ruining your life all over the place." Ezra looked like he was holding himself back from hugging me again, which was probably best for all involved. "Why would you say such a thing? You're not ruining anything at all. You're giving us a little adventure to liven up the evening. Danny hasn't changed a tire in quite some time." "I'm sure he's got better things to do." I popped my trunk, put on a pair of size small hospital gloves I always traveled with a box of, and hefted out the spare tire I'd hoped I would never have to use. The jack and travel toolbox came out, and I set to work unscrewing the nuts as I knelt by poor Terence, my beloved Taurus. His headlights seemed to look at me like, "Dude, this is totally embarrassing." Really, October Grace. See, always an adventure. I have a cat that's running around. It is very exciting. "Really, October Grace, Danny can do that. You don't need to bother with it at all." The fact that he was such a nice guy and still volunteered Danny's services told me he had no idea how to change a tire. It was sweet. I jerked my chin toward my wrench. "Do you know how to do this?" Ezra chuckled with chagrin. "I confess, I've never changed a tire before. You've found me out." I waved him down, smirking when the perfectly dressed country clubber knelt next to me, his unwrinkled khakis giving me the finger that I was making them ruin their perfect crease. "See that? These nuts need to come off first. Easy enough, right?" Ezra smiled at me like we were doing something audacious and fun he just knew we'd get in trouble for. You're really teaching me how to change a flat? I really am. Ollie wouldn't let me get my driver's license until I could change a tire, change my oil, and knew how to give my car a jump. Okay. He's strict. I had no idea Beverly's children were so very capable. Well, after today, you'll be the same amount of impressive, I said. I slid the jack under the car and started pumping until poor Terrence was slightly raised. Should we wait for Danny? I feel like the car will come crashing down on your hands or something. Nah, the jack does what it does while we do what we do. Now take the good-for-nothing off the axle, I instructed, pulling and twisting until the ruined rubber broke free of Terrence. We were cozied in between 2 rows of topiaries lining the long driveway. For that stretch of time, there were no distractions as I worked under the fading light from nature and the answering illumination filtering through the tall bushes from Ezra Manor. Now we put on the new one. Easy peasy. Ezra helped me lift the tire in the early twilight, and together we angled it correctly so it slid on. I handed him the iron, and he looked at it with wide eyes. I'm afraid I don't have much aptitude for cars. I'm strictly a drive-it-until-it-doesn't-work sort of bloke. I'm watching you. Don't worry. Righty-tighty, you know the drill. Put the nuts back on and tighten them, and you'll be good to go. I bit back my smirk when Ezra looked mildly flummoxed by the few things he'd been presented with. He set to work with hands meant for swiping credit cards, his humble attitude playing in his favor. He wasn't too bad at it, and took my gentle guidance with grace until the job was completed. Wow, you must really love Bev to let me make you help change a tire. That's really cool of you. I do love your mother, he said, turning to look me in the eye. I would do anything to make her happy, including learn to change a tire just to bond with her daughter. I swallowed, unsure what to do with this guy's constant sincerity and kindness. Well, now I know she'll be okay if she's out with you and you get a flat. She doesn't know how to do this? Where did you learn it then? Ollie? Ollie and Allie taught me everything. Allie? He quirked his blonde eyebrow at me. Is that a girlfriend of Oliver's? Huh? No. Allie's our sister. Ezra stared at me, as though certain he'd heard me wrong. His hand was frozen on the tire. But Beverly told me she has 2 children. I had little issue lying for Bev to cover over whatever she needed extra strength concealer smeared on. I sucked it up when she needed me to call her mama, but this? I couldn't gloss over this offense. It was too hurtful, too mean. My tone came out clipped, though I didn't mean to sound short to the poor guy, whose only crime was falling in love with Bev. Allison Mercy Reese is her second-born child. Bev has 3 kids, whether she wants to admit it or not. Allie is 27, and she lives in California. She's got hair like me and freckles like Ollie. She's got a biology degree and works as a researcher for a chemical supply company. I was hurt that Bev dismissed my Allie so rudely. Allie filled the role of mother in my life, and I was loyal to her as such. Allie and Bev didn't get along, but she doesn't deserve to be erased like that. Ezra's fingers pressed into his hairline as if holding too many things back so they didn't spill out all over the pristine driveway. I don't understand. Why would Beverly keep that from me? I'll have a 3rd daughter? I should like to meet her straight away. I was glad we were closed in by the green topiaries that were taller than a person. It made the confession feel like it was safe to give, though I knew there was no chance of things turning out all right after I pressed further into the wound. Allie asked Ollie and me for some space. She wasn't mad at us or anything. She just wanted to start over in California. She didn't feel she could do that if Ollie and I were still around. So she left 2 years ago. Promised to call twice a year. Once at Christmas and once on Ollie's birthday. But she forgot this past Christmas. I haven't heard from her since Ollie's birthday last year. I tried not to let the constant stream of unrest well up in me. I tried her number the day after her missed call on Christmas, but it was disconnected. I knew she'd given up a lot to raise me, but to cut me out completely hurt worse than I could put into words. So I never discussed it. If Ollie ever started, I gave him one warning and then hung up on him if he kept at it. He wanted to hire a PI to find her and make sure she was okay. But Allie had been firm before she left that she would contact us, not the other way around. She was my mother, more than anyone else, and I respected her as such. I'll have to talk to Beverly about this. I don't understand why she wouldn't tell me she had a whole other child. My conscience tugged in my chest. Look, I'm sorry. Maybe I should have let that one slide. Your relationship is none of my business, and you should be happy. You seem like a nice enough guy. I just don't like it when Bev tries to erase Allie like that. I won't stand for it. And if you don't mind me saying so, now that you know, neither should you. Ezra stood, posturing as he pulled me up off the concrete. The air was just starting to get nippy, so I hugged myself. Of course, I would never try to erase a family member. I'll speak with Beverly about this, and we'll get to the bottom of it. I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding. He stared at my car with a tight frown and furrowed eyebrows, mulling over the extreme ups and downs of the night. Danny came down the drive with broad shoulders and empty hands. I thought I had a spare, but no dice. Sorry about that. Did you... He pointed to the freshly changed front tire in confusion. Actually, Ezra helped me. He's got a real future as a mechanic ahead of him, if you ask me. Danny grimaced and turned to the man who was still reeling. Truly? Ezra changed your tire? I cannot picture that. He picked up my shredded tire with one strong hand. I'll call a tow truck for you. It'll be about an hour. Thanks, Danny. I'll wait in the car. You two have a good night. Ezra turned to me, blinking a few times before he found his words. Nonsense. You'll come and wait inside. Before I could argue, Ezra was already several steps away, walking toward the house. Danny kept a respectable distance behind us, but I got the uncomfortable feeling that I was being corralled. That is the end of chapter 8. We did it! How are your reading goals for the year going? Are you reading anything you're enjoying? Leave it in the comments below and maybe I'll check it out. I'm a big fan of nonfiction lately, but I like to mix it up and read fiction from time to time. So give me what you got. Cricket says, have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next Tuesday for the next chapter of Taste.